Good morning or good afternoon to everyone who's entering the room. We have another great webinar today by Dr. Maricel Garza. And the title is As We Grow, They Grow, Knowledge Development for Student Success. I do see you coming into the room. It's been a minute since we've had a webinar, industry webinar, so we're excited to have you join us. You're coming in, of course, from the East Coast. Good afternoon and good morning for those of you who are here on the central side, I say. And as usual, if you don't mind, if you could just put your name in the chat and what institution you're representing, we would definitely appreciate that. So don't be shy. And I do see a question from Dr. Westry. You have raised your hand. Let's see here. Or maybe you're just saying hi, I'm not sure. But if you do have a question, Dr. Westry, please just put it in the Q&A and I will definitely get to that.
I'm seeing a lot of hands today.
Yes. Oh, the chat is disabled. Thank you so much. We need to fix that. Thank you. Let's see, how do we do that?
I think I got it, maybe, possibly.
Okay, awesome.
Let us know.
Let us know. Yes, if you're able to put it. Yes.
Yay.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Good morning.
Morning. See, FAMU is here. Hi, Nigel. And on the phone, looks like we got Cecilia from Jarvis. Hi. We have Mr. Andre Richardson. And of course, Dr. Westry. Thank you so much for joining us. Dana. Hi, Dana. Good to see you. And Dr. Richardson, he's from Jarvis Christian University. Welcome. Mm-hmm. So we're going to allow just a few more minutes for others to join us. Thank you again for attending. And if you haven't had an opportunity to kind of put where you're from and your name and what institution you're representing in the chat, we would definitely appreciate it if you could do that for us. Yes. See here, I have to go up and see here. We do have someone else from Jarvis Christian University, Devorah. Welcome. Alcorn. Hi, Miss Edwards. Great to see you too, Dana.
You've got a fan club.
Although I don't see you, I see you.
Teresa's got a fan club.
Oh, yeah. Not at all. How, Lawson State. Hello there. Miss Jones. See you. Oh, Diana Gossett from Texas College. Hello. Welcome. Okay. Marisol, you just let me know when you want to get started. If you want to wait just a couple more minutes, we can. It's about 11:05, I believe.
I am ready.
Okay, and hello, Ms. Smith from Atlanta Metropolitan State College. Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Teresa Tyus, and I will be moderating this session As We Grow, They Grow, Knowledge Development for Student Success. This webinar is being recorded, so we will send out the recording to each of you who are here today. If you have questions, you can put it in the Q&A, or if you want to put it in the chat, I'll be monitoring it as well. Hello, Mr. Houston from Houston-Tillotson, welcome. And without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Dr. Maricel Garza.
Thanks, Teresa. I'm excited to be here again for another webinar. I feel like we do so many of these, so I hope you find them useful. And I'm glad to see everybody here. As always, if you've been to these webinars in the past, you already kind of know who I am. If you've been to our roundtables, you know who I am. So I asked Teresa not to do a whole other introduction and bio. You basically know I've been in higher ed for a long time. My focus is community colleges and academic advising is my thing. What doesn't come across in my profile, what usually doesn't come across in my bio, is that in this long time that I've been in higher ed, in one of these former lives, I actually worked in organizational and professional development at several colleges where I coordinated new employee orientation, all of the professional development for staff and faculty. I did outreach and training for adjunct faculty, um, did some development around new teaching and learning strategies, developed a strategic plan that tied into professional development, organized study abroad for faculty learning initiatives, which always made me super jealous because they never took me with them. I just got to send them there. I also coordinated academic advisor training. And recently, I engaged in research with over 35 colleges across the nation to learn about effective classroom practices and promising engagement strategies. So I do have a little experience in the topic we're going to be talking about today. And we're talking about knowledge development, which is really an umbrella term. And I'll tell you throughout this presentation what it is an umbrella term for. I really like this idea of as we grow, they grow. It's something that I've carried with me throughout my career, something that I think is really important because as we work to serve our students, as we work to help students, we also need to remember that it's important for us to continue growing as people, as humans, as professionals. And that's how we can be of service to our students through our own journey and our own development. And I'm going to ask you to be a little patient with me today as we go through this presentation, since we are doing something a little bit different. We are going to be, I'm going to be asking you to answer some poll questions, to engage a little bit. And then towards the end, if time permits, I'm going to ask you to, if you want to chime in and provide some feedback or ideas, to raise your hand and I'll open it up so everybody can share. So it's a little bit of a roundtable, a little bit of interaction, and hopefully you'll have some fun while we do it and learn some great stuff. So, really, why are we talking about this today? The reality of it is that higher education is dynamic, it is constantly changing. And we, as educators who lead institutions, are always transforming in an effort to meet those multiple societal demands that are kind of placed on us. Some of them, like when we had to deal with responding to COVID, are things that just kind of come out of the blue and we have to pivot and respond quickly. Other things are things that we see kind of coming, trends that are emerging, changes that are happening within the higher education landscape that we can prepare for. And while colleges often engage in new initiatives to facilitate student success, faculty and staff also need to develop alongside these strategies. And the reality of it is that professional development, staff training kind of gets overlooked in the process. We do a great job of planning strategically, developing ideas of where we want to go, the things we want to accomplish, but we don't always tend to the needs of the faculty and staff who we're asking to do a lot of this work. So, for example, as the pathways started coming around and everybody started engaging in guided pathways, huge movement across the nation. And there were many, many changes happening at various levels of institutions. What I didn't always see happening as we were doing the pathways work is strategic training to align with that work. So I'd come across academic advisors or I'd come across, frontline staff who understood from a broad perspective kind of, yeah, guided pathways is a thing. We hear the words. We know people are saying these things, but they were never really engaged in the process of learning and understanding about what that was. So it's really important to think about when we're engaging in change, when we're working to respond to these societal demands and the ever changing higher education landscape, Let's not leave our faculty and staff behind, and let's make sure that they are fully equipped to deal with and handle with what's coming ahead. So that's why we're here today to talk about that. And we're going to talk a little bit about what knowledge development is on a broad scale, what it looks like at institutions, how you can start thinking about being strategic with knowledge development, ways that Trellis can help you with some areas. And also, I want to hear from you just about what topics are important, what formats are most useful for you. So I'll be asking you some of those things along the way. So, first, let's start with this idea of training. I think we often hear training and professional development as something that is interchangeable. And really, it's two different things. So, when we talk about training, it's really focused on the how of something. It tends to be more functional learning, how to do a job, how to use a data management system, learning to use maybe a student learning management system, how to understand a degree plan or read a digital catalog, how to evaluate transcripts, understand and explain processes or procedures. This is when training is helpful. The primary objective is to develop functional or hard skills. The organizations invest in an application or a process, and training really is just to facilitate the deployment of that application or process. It tends to be one directional, kind of like a lot of webinars tend to be, where it's someone kind of talking, telling you information, and you're just kind of supposed to like run with it. It's typically time bound, happens within a short period of time, and it applies to a specific job or responsibilities. It also tends to be very separate from the greater situational or environmental context, meaning that training is typically focused on how to do a job, and it's not really concerned or tied into the greater institutional vision or the greater higher education landscape. It's kind of a one and done. Let's make sure you have these functional skills and move on. That's really what training is. It's for new team members, maybe when a new process or procedure is implemented, when new technology is introduced. It helps ensure that there's standard operating procedures across the institution, and it helps staff become familiar with systems and processes that are specific typically to that institution. Professional development, on the other hand, is more growth oriented learning. It's an investment in an individual as part of a larger purpose. And professional development can take shape in many different ways, whether it's attending conferences, presenting at conferences, engaging in learning opportunities at your college, a series of sessions, an online certificate program, something that is really designed to nurture professional growth, and it's future oriented. It's not necessarily focused on one job, one specific task, duty, policy, procedure, or technology. It's very value centered and is tied to a greater sense of purpose. So when we think of professional development, we're thinking of helping our team members really become part of the institutional vision, the institutional mission, and just grow their skills as a person and as a professional. Professional development tends to be kind of multi directional, and it's led by a facilitator. So instead of one way learning where we have kind of the stage on the stage format where somebody's just kind of dictating information, there tends to be more active learning, more engagement, more discussion, more room for thought and brainstorming. Also, professional development is very responsive to current contextual factors. So, what's happening in the higher education landscape, right? As something that emerged from COVID is a greater focus on student basic needs, those students who have basic needs and security, and how we respond to that. That's something we've talked about a lot in higher ed over the past 10 years, especially with Sarah Goldrick Grab's work. But it's something that really came to us and hit us in the face when COVID hit. So now that we have this awareness of what's happening on a greater scale, Professional development is tied to that because it's a matter of not just understanding like what basic needs and security is, but understanding what's happening on a broader scale in education in society. That's what we're talking about when we talk about professional development. It's bigger. It's typically for more experienced staff, those who are committed to personal growth and development, leaders and emerging leaders, perhaps. It encourages that professional growth and learning. It creates a shared understanding around values. It anchors the institution and it anchors those individuals within the values that underpin the purpose of education. It supports staff and emerging leaders and nurtures engagement and mission commitment. Then we're going to talk about capacity building. And this is something that I don't think we talk about a lot. And I think sometimes we interchange capacity building with simply just training or professional development. But capacity building is something even bigger. And this is something that's happening more at the institutional level than at the individual level. And so it's measurable and sustained improvement in an institution's ability to fulfill its mission through leadership, forward action, intentional training and development, and continuous assessment. So when we're talking about capacity building, it's really a specific effort to strengthen leadership, the institutional mission, organizational infrastructure, staff engagement, and investment. So there's a lot more that goes into capacity building, and training and professional development are really a part of capacity building, but they're only part of that story. There's definitely more to tell there. Where we often see the need for capacity building in higher education is around things like, and I know some of these sound like buzzwords or cliches or things we've heard a lot, data or informed decision making, student outreach and support, institutional innovation, strategic alignment, adaptability. Goodness, do we need to know about adaptability? It's happening when the economy shifts. It happens when things like pandemics hit. We vacillate between a focus on academic learning and nurturing humans to vocational training and workforce readiness, where we're looking for people to join the workforce and help the economy grow. So we constantly have to be adaptable and aware and responsive. Also, equity and culturally relevant approaches. Equity is something that is becoming more talked about in higher education. It's really shifting away from just the simple idea of diversity to really talking about equity and inclusion in a more meaningful way. And so these are ideas and examples of capacity building because it takes more of an effort to engage multiple different levels of leaders, faculty, staff in moving in a direction that sustains and builds up an institutional culture. And it's important because it does help build a strong foundation for organizational success and mission fulfillment. It nurtures that mutual understanding and a shared vision. It also mitigates initiative fatigue. And I know you've heard initiative fatigue because I know a lot of staff are like, oh goodness, here comes the leadership again. What else we got to do now? We got to some random initiative they heard about at a conference that now they, decide that we're going to do. And then we kind of just, and I say this from experience because I've been there both as a recipient of it and both as a person who's, kind of been guilty of facilitating things in this way and just saying, oh, I heard this great thing at this conference. This college is doing X, Y, and Z. We need to do that too, without really pausing to think about how does it fit into the structure? How does it fit with our greater mission and our vision for the future? So when you really engage around strategy and capacity building, it mitigates that initiative fatigue because you are being more, for lack of a better word, strategic and intentional in what you're doing, what you're promoting, and how you're moving forward. And it's important. It really is important because it encourages forward movement. If we don't engage in professional development training and on a broad scale capacity building, we cannot move forward and we stay stagnant. We're not responsive to our students. We wonder, why don't students stay here or why don't students come back? Why do students leave us? And that's when we need to reflect. Perhaps we haven't achieved the level of capacity that we need to as an institution, as leaders, to respond to the needs of the students within the context we're living in now. So, how do you go about developing this kind of comprehensive approach? I'm going to pause for a second and I'm just going to say this. Each one of the things that I've discussed thus far, training, professional development, capacity building, each one of those is a session in and of itself. How to effectively engage in training, what is appropriate training modalities, what is professional development, how do you tie that to a strategic plan? And then capacity building, where does it start? How do you begin? How do you move it forward? How are you strategic about it? So each one of these can really be an entire session. And this is just kind of a crash course overview of what these things are and why they're important to student success. So to develop that comprehensive approach to capacity building and knowledge development, we start with the vision and strategy, thinking through what is our vision for the future and what is our strategy to get there. Something that I thought was unique about one of the colleges I worked for is that anytime we sat down to review or revise our strategic vision for any new initiative, any new plan we put in, we always tied training and professional development to it. There was always a training and professional development segment to any strategy. So if we had 5 strategies, we had 5 distinct goals for training professional development. And we identified who, when, how, and why. How was it going to support that specific strategy? What was it going to entail? Who needed to be involved? You want to integrate learning into the college culture. I think it's important to remember that as educational leaders, we are serving students and we're helping students learn, but we're learners too. Learning is our mission overall. That goes for students and that goes for us as well. If we don't continue to grow, like I said in the beginning, if we don't continue to grow, learn how to adapt, then we are not being responsive to our students. So we need to integrate learning and that love of learning, that passion for learning into the college culture for everybody, for students and for us. You want to engage in meaningful dialogue and staff interactions that nurture growth and exploration. So as you're developing this comprehensive approach, the last thing you really want to do is kind of have a plan and say, okay, these are all the things that we think you need training in. These are all the things that we think you need professional development in. Here you go. We're dictating some more things to you. That's another way to have staff become disengaged, burn out because they're being dictated to. Have those meaningful conversations, understand, assess, where do these knowledge gaps really exist? Where do your faculty and staff see themselves? What type of support do they need and they want to be successful in their job? And that becomes a really critical aspect of your comprehensive approach. And you always, always, always want to assess and evaluate at different levels. So this goes beyond what we're used to in assessing and evaluating just regular student programs or courses. It really goes to assessing and evaluating your performance as an institution in sustaining and uplifting your community, your faculty, your staff, your leaders, everybody. And I will say, one college I worked for, they had a kind of professional development that they were rolling out to really nurture buy-in, and training and development included everybody at the institution. There was a track, and that included the facilities and custodial track. So my dad, for a short time, worked with me at the college after he retired. He got a part-time job working in facilities at the college, which was fun and weird all at the same time. But he was being invited to these trainings, and he's like, what is this about? He's like, I deliver the mail. I don't know, why are they making me go to this? But then after he went, he understood. He's like, okay, they just wanted to teach us and let us talk about, what the college is, what everybody does here, what everybody's role is. And he felt more connected to what was happening at the college. He was really proud of the college. And I've said this many times before in different presentations, but my dad also turned around and enrolled in classes at the college. And so at 62, this was, a man who had a fifth grade education. And at 62, he finally received a certificate in computers. He thought he'd never use a computer in his life. But once he understood, hey, this is the college mission, education is possible. We want everybody to learn and grow. He's like, oh, yeah, that includes me too. It was a dramatic shift. So when you think about that, think about everybody and how everybody contributes to your institution and what they need to feel connected. So now I'm going to ask you to take a moment and engage with me for a little bit. I'm going to ask you to answer a poll question. So as you work towards capacity building, would you prefer if webinars and roundtables were offered by, let me launch this poll real quick and you tell me, by institution type? So like if we had a track for 2-year institutions and a different track for 4-year institutions, by institution type, whether we had a track for private institutions or public institutions, by division or department, such as admissions, financial aid, advising, facilities. What is your preference if you have one? And there's a reason that I really want to know about this. One is so that we can better serve you, but it also kind of gives you a moment to reflect on the idea of, do you like peer learning? Do you like learning from institutions that are different than your own? What does that look like for you? So we've got 4 people responding, which is 17. Okay, we're up to 21%. We've got 5 out of 23 people responding. I'm going to give it just another minute or so. Okay. So we were leaning towards strongly preferred. I think we're still leaning towards strongly preferred. Yep. For most of these, which I find interesting. So, okay, I'm going to end that poll there and let's see what we have. Let's share the results here. So this is good to know, Teresa. A lot of our institutions prefer to have a track that's more specific to them. 2-year versus 4-year, public versus private, definitely by department or division, right? The by role, administration, leadership, staff, that's a little more mixed, but thank you. That lets us know that you know kind of what you want to learn and how you want to learn it. So now we're going to transition a bit. If I can get this to move forward, there we go. We're going to discuss a little bit about how Trellis can help, right? So we've got some available sessions that are kind of off the shelf, things that we can offer, things that we've kind of already developed and prepared for. And any of my Trellis team, if you're on the call and you want to add something that I've left off, please feel free to raise your hand and I'll take it off mute so that you can share. But advisor development, campaign planning, best practices, customer service training. This is offered in person and online, and I'll talk about Trellis Mobile in just a second. External communication to students, FAFSA, TASFA workshops for staff. Internal communication, this is something that we've developed more recently, and this was developed at the request of one of our colleges. And also supporting students with basic needs and security. This is something that's gaining popularity, especially as institutions have learned from and participated in our student financial wellness survey, which is coming around again this year. So if you want to participate in that, make sure you let your ISC know. So these are some kind of the available sessions. Learner Mobile is something that we launched recently. Right now, it's specifically for our customer service training. It's easy to enroll. And yes, it's anytime, anywhere, even on your mobile device. The courses have a 2-week due date. Modules are 30 to 45 minutes long. I really like that you can download a workbook. There's interactive questions and scenarios. It can be used as a train the trainer tool. There's activity reports available, and each participant gets a certificate of completion. So if you're interested in that, the setup is really easy. Just email your ISC, let us know who's going to be overlooking this at your institution and what who's going to participate. And Nina will help get you set up. So next poll question. I have a lot of poll questions, y'all. Poll questions, information, poll questions, information. Let's go to the next question. What training format works best for you? And this is easy, just 2 answers. Online or in person? What do you prefer? I personally prefer in person just because I'm kind of one of those people that likes to move around and talk. Like sitting still in this chair drives me a little bonkers. Like I need to be moving around. I need to have some action. So I like in person, but I know a lot of people have become comfortable with the online training formats. And just so you know, I made this anonymous, so I do not know who's responding. If you don't want to tell us who you are, that's okay. I'm not going to know. I just kind of see answers. So we've got 10 people, 45% responding. I'll give it a little longer to see if any more of you want to share some feedback. And again, I invite you to kind of use this feedback to think through what you're doing at your institution, whether you're participating with Trellis or not. How are you offering training at your institution? I did a training for one of my colleges a few weeks ago, and they did a session that was both in person and online, which was really tricky for me. It was a first for me as a facilitator, but it was very effective for the institution because they had those people that really wanted to be there face to face with their colleagues. And they had others who either lived further or were just more comfortable in a remote working style. And that's what they did. So it worked out really well. Let's look at this. Share results. We are split 50-50. So equally, 7 of you like online and 7 of you like in person. Great. So we offer webinars, roundtables, and more. You may have attended a biweekly webinar that you're sitting in enjoying today. Maybe you've attended one of our roundtables that are more interactive, designed for brainstorming. Roundtables really help more with as you're moving towards that capacity building for your institution, because it's a place to share thoughts, hear thoughts, exchange, ask questions. It's really more of that open format. The webinars are more designed for training. We also have a podcast called Student Centricity. If you haven't heard it, check it out. It is on iTunes and other places. You can just go online. I think it's on Spotify as well. And we're currently exploring other opportunities and possibilities of what future trainings might look like. And now that you've told me kind of that you prefer different tracks, we're going to consider maybe some options for providing those tracks, like having, a 2-year college track, a university track, a private institution, a public institution, and see how that works coming up in the next year. So thinking about the sessions that you've attended so far, and this is open format, feel free to share whatever you want here. It's not a poll. I want to hear and see your words. What topics have been the most useful for you? I want short answers, so I made it, I think, just 50 characters, a few words, phrases of what topics have been most useful to you. And think about why. Do they tie into something that's going on at your institution? Do they tie into some goals that you have at your institution? Let us know. What topics have been useful that you've attended? And if you haven't found anything useful, which I would think is really sad, but still, let us know that you didn't find anything useful. Again, these are anonymous, so I won't know who typed them. We have one person responding so far. All right, two people responding. Yay! Come on, y'all. This is supposed to be interactive. And I really want to learn from y'all. And yes, I use the word y'all. I feel that it's very native to my Texas roots. It's authentic to my Texas roots, but it's also inclusive. It's y'all.
And
May
if
not
you
be
don't
proper.
remember, yeah, and if you don't remember the actual webinar name, just, if it was
The
something that had
topic.
to do with,
Yeah.
yeah, stop out, or if it had to do with, you know, incarceration, because we had a really good one on that. Just
Yeah, that was a great one. And so that one turned into a podcast as well. So if you're not a webinar person and don't want to sit in a webinar and you want to just kind of listen to it maybe in the car, you can check out the podcast because some of our webinars do get converted to podcasts. So serving incarcerated students was one of them. Okay, this has gone for like 2 minutes. So let's, that doesn't let me see any details about what people said. Okay, we'll stop sharing and I'll get an idea of what that looks like later. Again, patience. This is a new feature in Zoom for advanced polling that allows questions. I really wanted to use Mentimeter, but it is what it is. I'm in Zoom. So thank you for participating. I look forward to seeing those results, and perhaps I might have an opportunity to share them with you here at the end. So the other thing we do that I don't think we've talked about a lot is some customized training and development. And I say you do your part and we will be there to help. I've done this for a few of my institutions so far. As you're thinking through, your strategies, as you're developing your strategic plan and thinking about that professional development that we want to integrate into those things, perhaps this isn't something that you're equipped to do at your institution for a specific type of training or professional development series. Talk to us, talk to your ISC, let us know. We just want to know the purpose. What audience is it going to be for? Is it for a specific division? Is it for the entire college? Is it for staff at a specific level? Is it for leadership? One of our institutions just started a really neat supervisor development course, and they meet every Friday. One Friday, it's some type of session. The following Friday, it's a social hour so that the supervisors can just kind of, mix it up with each other and learn from each other. And then it goes back to a learning session. So I presented for one of these at their request. And please know that that's available for you. We don't want to leave you hanging out there by yourself. We will help you. If it's something that we can't do for some reason, we'll try to find somebody who can. A lot of times finding speakers and external professional development can be costly. Again, this is free to you, using our brain power to help you. So let us know. And again, this is the last question. I still have more information after this, but this is the last question. And I want to know, what topics do you want to see in the future? This is going to help Teresa and the team think about what we want to offer going forward. Have we missed the mark? Have we hit the mark? Do you want to hear the same thing over again? Do you want something new that we haven't explored? So again, short answer, just a word or two. Let us know some topics that you want us to cover going forward. And again, I'll give you some time. I know people take some time. All right. I wonder if I'm going to have my 7 dedicated answers. Coming back. 2. All right. If we hit that 7 mark, then we're doing good because I've got my 7 dedicated answers. I appreciate it so much. And it's the same. As we grow, you grow. The more we learn, the more we can help. 5. All right, 23%. Few more. 6. I'm waiting for that number 7. Okay. I'm going to give it, 10 seconds. Right. Fantastic. I've got 7. So I think we're doing good with my. Awesome. Okay. Since we can't really share, I won't share, but perhaps Teresa and I can send out some of the responses later when we send out information from the webinar. I'm going to conclude with just one last tiny bit of information of how Trellis can support you, but this is not the end of our show. I'm going to invite you. So I want you to start thinking right now. I'm going to invite you at the end. We're going to have about 15 minutes left. And I invite you to share. Share your experiences, share where you are kind of in the process, how you've handled professional development and training and capacity building at your institution. And all you're going to have to do for that is just raise your hand. We'll see your hand and then we'll kind of invite you to the floor to share your thoughts. So the last little tidbit I'm going to leave you with on our behalf is that to sustain and to help you in your capacity building process, we do consulting. That is our job. Institutional support consultants. We have a wealth of experience and varied backgrounds that can help you in many different areas, whether it's academic advising, strategic enrollment, stop out, communication mapping, which is something kind of new that we did recently, policy and procedure review, strategy or program specific evaluation and feedback. That's some of the consulting we do. And also remember that research does inform practice. And if you have developed that capacity at your institution and really have that data informed decision making culture, then let us help you with your research. We do stop out. Yes, we do the student financial wellness survey, and that's annual. Again, if you want to participate, let us know. We do student satisfaction, but we also do custom quantitative and qualitative research. And a lot of institutions don't realize that we actually do qualitative research. So whether you have a study that you've already done that you'd like to follow up on with some deeper qualitative work to understand kind of the story behind the numbers, we can help with that. If you want to do a 2-part research that has some quantitative and qualitative elements to it, we can do that. So just let us know. So with that said, of course, I'm a nerd, so there's my references. So with that said, I'm going to stop sharing the screen now, and I'm going to open up the floor to invite you to share your thoughts. If anybody has anything that they want to say, just raise your hand. Use the feature on the bottom of your screen and just let us know. Teresa's schools are usually very active.
Thank you, Marisol. This has been great. Thank you so much. Yes, don't be shy.
Houston Tillotson, raise their hand. Let's see.
Hi.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, this is David Houston. Oh, Ms. Teresa, good to see you again. I think one of the biggest things that I would like to do is help my university with helping students with disabilities. There's so many avenues out there, like with note-taking and testing, that not only is my job, it's my love. I want to help them. And it's sometimes hard to figure out which way is better, which way is most cost effective. And so that's what I would love to help with, because I think it will serve more students and help them to, achieve more, work better, etc.
Yep. That's a very important aspect of it, and really building that awareness among faculty and staff of, even if you don't have direct knowledge on how to support students that are differently abled, you know where to get resources. You know how to just demonstrate support and care for that student and get them to where they need to go to get the right resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you also, Dr. Priestley, for the nice, kind words.
So y'all see, that's how it works. Just raise your hand and you can talk.
Yeah, anybody else? We have Dr. Priestley. All right, bring you in.
Bring her in.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I actually concur with the last gentleman's comments, and just wanted to say that it's almost difficult for me to think of anything else, because you've presented so many webinars and trainings that have been helpful, and all the things that Trellis does for Southern has been exceedingly beneficial to us. And so I'm over here thinking I'll list some things and send it to Teresa later if I find something. But honestly, you've done quite a good job, and I'm eternally grateful for what the Department of Ed and you all have been doing to for those of us who could use the extra help and resources. So certainly appreciate it. And I will, though, provide some feedback, because I know it's helpful to you in measuring what you're doing well. I'll work with my team to think of some other things that we might need in terms of what you've said you offer. But at this particular point, meanwhile, it's just kudos to y'all for a great job well done.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. I know in the chat that we have, I think it was, is it Janice? She also said disability services would be great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what school she represents. Do you, Marisol? And I think you probably told me, Janice, up top here. If you could just kind of let me know. I don't know if it was Jarvis or not. It may be HT. I'm not sure. Okay. Payne. Okay. Thank you. Got that down.
Nice. Okay. Well, Teresa, seeing no more hands, we can end just a little bit early. I just wanted to make sure that everybody had a chance to talk, ask questions. If there's anything that you need us to clarify before we leave, let us know.
And as I stated earlier, this has been recorded. We will send it out. And if you do think of anything and later on, please feel free to send either Marisol or myself or your ISC an email. We'll make sure that we would make note of that. And thank you so much for attending today. So I'll let you close too, Marisol.
Yes. No, absolutely. Thank you so much for attending. I know this was a slightly different format that you may see more in the future, where we're trying to get some feedback from you along the way, but also encourage participation. And we don't want to leave without sharing another new item that is kind of in the works. I didn't know if I was going to be okay to share this or not. So Dr. Jones has given us the go ahead, but we are launching a Project Reconnect. Dr. Jones, do you want to share? Are you in a place to share? There we go. I'm sure she'll explain it much better than I know how to explain it.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to give you a great gift opportunity for what we are doing here at Trellis on a Wednesday, Hump Day. There are a lot of students out there that we have are missing, and they stopped out for a reason. And so Project Success, we are actually going to launch our Project Reconnect program. It is a program within Project Success. And basically, it will be an opportunity for us to really sit down and have a conversation and develop a strategic plan, a comprehensive plan, where there are timelines which we are going to help you bring those students back to your campus. Students are looking for those opportunities. And so we are taking on a few projects, institutions that are wanting to participate in this. And there will be an agreement as a part of this so that we want to make sure that this program is successful and helping you bring students back to campus. And so if this is something that you are interested in, please let your ISC know. It's a little bit different than just the stop out campaigns, but it's more comprehensive in helping reclaiming students back to campus and looking at a particular cohort group that you are very interested in bringing back. So please get with your ISC and let them know. We'll be visiting you face to face and having that conversation. So thank you, Dr. Garza. Thank you, Teresa, for allowing me to share this opportunity with our fellow institutions. And you all have a great week.
Thank you, Dr. Jones.
Thank you, Dr. Jones. Okay, well, if that's all we have, thank you. We'll give you a few minutes back in your day. And again, I'll be sending out this recording. And thank you, Dr. Garza. Wonderful topic. And everyone enjoy the rest of their day.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.